The only consistent thing about For Honor is how inconsistent it is, and for a somewhat competitive hand-to-hand fighting game, that's a pretty big problem. I can't explain how many times I've been caught in a situation when I know I get the timing of a parry, a deflect, or even just blocking an attack correct, yet they still somehow hit me. Somehow the opposing team's revenge meter feels like it fills within 2 attacks and yours never does at all. The matchmaking system is positively broken, and unfortunately a lot of these issues have been around for a very long time. It's such a frustrating game to keep coming back to, one of the few that can actually make me rage quit. Yet at the same time, this game has a very strong allure to it. I just don't know what it is about it that keeps me coming back to the same frustrating experience, and I know I'm not alone. The entire community hates this game so much, yet we all still play it. Why? Well, to quote Badass Gaming, it's like a finger flick to the balls. The pain is sharp, but it fades with time, and you'll be back. They always come back. We'll explore why people keep coming back to the same frustrating experience as we analyze the strengths and weaknesses of For Honor. Perhaps the biggest problem with the entirety of this game has to do with its connection to the internet, for multiple reasons. First off, filling game lobbies. Everyone on PC at least will know that unless you're playing Brawl, Dominion, or Duel, wait times to actually get into a match are slower than molasses trying to flow down a flat hill. I was able to write a pretty significant portion of the script while I was waiting for breach matches to start as I was collecting footage. It's a shame that it is that way, because the best game mode in my opinion isn't any of those 3, but I'll get into that later. Once you find yourself in a match, there are a few more roadblocks that'll stall you from playing the game that you hate, and those can all be summed up in 2 words: loading time. First, you have your character select screen, which goes by pretty quickly. Then you'll have to wait until the game actually loads your characters in, which is usually pretty quick, but sometimes you can manage to file in all your taxes as you wait. Then you'll be taken to a screen in which all of the heroes are displayed in their ready stance, which like I just said, can be really fast, or you'll be able to fit a whole midnight Taco Bell run in before the game actually loads. You could probably even finish eating your food too. However, this problem can't really be helped on the parts of the devs, seeing as everyone's computer and internet connection is different, meaning not everyone can load as fast. It's unfortunate, but it's understandably so. It's not a huge deal, it doesn't happen too often, but it is still a pain when it does. Once you're in a match, there are 4 or so general experiences you can expect. The first experience is the expected normal in which you and the enemy team are fairly evenly matched. The fights tend to be interesting, and there's minimal BS that happens throughout a match. The second is the desired but uncommon match skewed in your favor. Here you'll be dumpstering fools like nobody's business, but ultimately it tends to be pretty boring. The third match you can expect is the dreaded match skewed in the enemy team's favor. This tends to be a bit more common in the less often played game modes. Here you feel as though there is nothing you can do to defend yourself, forcing you into a slow-moving loss. Finally, the fourth match you can expect to happen pretty often is the match with way too many connection errors. It should be noted that this kind of match can be present in any of the 3 other types. There have been quite a few times where I was performing an execution on an enemy, but because latency dictated it, they were actually alive the whole time, and they magically revived to prolong the fight. Fortunately, latency doesn't show itself so obviously all the time. That would make the game completely unplayable. Unfortunately, it shows itself in smaller ways throughout a regular match. You'll have occasional moments where you or an opponent will clip through one another. You'll try to block attacks that end up switching directions faster than the game should allow. The same thing goes with parries. 1 second it looks confirmed, the next second the attack somehow went through. There are often little annoyances like this that show themselves throughout the course of a match, and as these little annoyances build up, so does your frustration until you're red-faced and you're questioning, why do you even play this stupid game? For Honor is a game that tends to be pretty unbalanced, which is quite the understatement. In developing new heroes and tweaking those which already exist, developers are forced to be creative in how they operate as to not be pointless in comparison to the ones that already exist on the roster. No small feat, mind you. However, a game centered entirely around hand-to-hand combat absolutely requires good balance if it is or is to become viable competitively speaking, which Ubisoft have seemingly been pushing towards as of late. Keeping this in mind, there are some absolutely mind-blowing balance issues that still exist in the game, and they've existed for a very long time. Upon parry, a Lawbringer can easily deal at least 40 guaranteed damage if you pull off the punish correctly, which is absolutely insane. Warlord's headbutt into light attack is a death sentence if you're low on health because it comes out so fast. Shinobi only has 110 health. The Black Prior, a heavy hero, somehow runs faster than the Centurion, which is supposed to be a hybrid. The fact that the 4 classes of hero have different rates of renown gain progression is so frustrating at times because it makes it feel like your feats are never going to come out while you're playing a single match. That tends to suck because as you get good with a certain hero, you tend to rely on their feats as part of your moveset. If you can't access an entire part of your moveset, that makes you feel like less of a whole hero. Little balance effects like this really do a lot to make the game feel more dragging than it needs to be. Encountering objectively stronger heroes makes fighting them feel unfair, perhaps irrationally so, but the environment facilitates it. This feeling of unfairness is bolstered by another flaw of the game's. Its garbage matchmaking system, which I brought up earlier. Trying to find a match that isn't one of the big 3 game modes can often lead to a demoralizing situation in which you, a person with anywhere from say 30 to 60 reputations, get matched up with a person with upwards of 150. In the big 3 game modes of Brawl, Dominion, and Duel, this usually isn't as big of a deal. They're naturally more fast-paced, and you won't have to deal with it as long, making it feel less important. But what about Breach, which I personally consider to be the best and most unique game mode that For Honor has by far. Breach usually takes at least 25 minutes to complete if you're having a pretty normal match. If you get stuck against an opposing team in which you're very clearly outmatched, you're forced into enduring a long slog of a match where the outcome is essentially determined by the start, as you frantically try to figure out how to counter your opponent's style of fighting. It's a mess. But honestly, I think the reason we keep coming back to this stupid game is because a lot of people see the potential behind it. For Honor is truly one of the most unique games that exists in the gaming sphere today, and I think that unique experience combined with a vision of what the game could be continues to draw players back day after day after day after day. You might be wondering, if this game has had this much potential yet hasn't been able to capitalize on it, why do people still play after 3 whole years? Like I said earlier, this is a unique game, and with a unique game comes a unique experience, which when it delivers extremely well. You'll have these matches where you get into this flow or rhythm that no matter what happens mid-match, you feel this sense of satisfaction. Sometimes you get your butt kicked, and other times you kick butt, but ultimately the thing that matters in this state of the game is the fact that you're having fun. Having this feeling of interacting with your teammates and your opponents where you work in tandem with your teammates to outsmart your opponents, it leads to this extremely satisfying feeling when you win, and this more so accepting feeling of being fairly outmatched when you lose. Suddenly things don't feel like such a big deal because it doesn't feel so stacked against you. One thing that I'll touch on is the fact that For Honor does a pretty good job in accentuating these feelings through one thing it does extremely well consistently: visual flair. I suppose the best example in illustrating visual flair is the difference between getting a heavy parry and a light parry. When you get a heavy parry, you hear a loud noise and some sparks fly, which is pretty good. However, getting a light parry gives you this flash of sparks, which gives you this sense of power over your opponent because they know what's happening next if you can utilize that properly. The executions show off an excessive display of force, and the effects are just plain cool to look at depending on the ones that you choose. These visual elements do a great job of adding to something that the game can sometimes do well, and that's the gameplay itself. What I will say is that during those previously mentioned moments where you get into this rhythm and flow and fighting, the gameplay is really fun. It's clear to me that a ton of work and passion was put into creating it. I mean, just look at how the game launched versus how it is now. It has made a pretty significant resurgence lately. It may just one day live up to its potential. With the rise in popularity of gaming as a medium and hobby, and with the overall improvements in computer parts manufacturing as well as internet speeds for lower costs, it's easy to see how if Ubisoft plays their cards right, they can cultivate For Honor into one of the more enjoyable gaming experiences currently on the market. However, if Ubisoft doesn't work to fix the issues of the game as they currently stand in latency and balancing, what is currently one of the underdogs and most unique games in the market today will continue headfirst into the ground, only being remembered as one of gaming's biggest afterthoughts. I truly do have hope for this game, and I do wish it success in its future endeavors as it continues to improve and grow in its popularity. I really like it a lot. After all, I do have 650 hours in it. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch my video. As you can see, I didn't quite get it out within the month deadline that I gave myself in the last one, and that's due in large part to an extended break I took from gaming in general. However, I am back to playing games, and I'm back to exercising my creative freedom over making videos. And so, with that, I'd like to ask you to subscribe, leave a like if you liked the video, and I'll see you guys next time with a video that'll probably be a bit more of a return to form. Bye!